I'm Claire, and for years, I've lived in a world of perfect edges and unbreakable rules, trapped in a marriage that feels like a polished cage. My husband, Andrew, controls every detail, every fold of laundry, every minute of our day, until I'm drowning in the stillness of it all. But last night, something shattered. At a mysterious party in a grand, shadowy hotel, I felt eyes on me, whispers of danger pulling at a part of me I didn't know existed. And Andrew? He was there, watching from the darkness with a smile that chilled my blood. What game is he playing? And why can't I shake the thrill coursing through me even now? Stick around, because what he said next changed everything. Picture this. A single, unbroken line of footsteps in fresh snow, each one placed with such precision that it might as well have been measured with a ruler. That's my life. I'm Claire, 35, and I've spent the better part of a decade walking that line, never daring to step off. My husband, Andrew, 38, is the one who drew it. He's the kind of man who doesn't just live by rules. He crafts them, polishes them, and expects the world to fall in line. And I have. For years, I've folded the laundry just so, with the edges aligned like they're about to be inspected. Dinner is on the table at 6 sharp, not a minute late, because that's the script he's written for us. Our marriage isn't a storm or a wildfire. It's a still lake, smooth on the surface, but so deep and cold that I sometimes wonder if I'm drowning without even knowing it. Our home in upstate New York mirrors him perfectly. It's a suburban dream, all neutral tones, beige walls, cream curtains, taupe furniture. Not a speck of dust dares to settle here. I make sure of that. Every surface gleams under the soft glow of carefully chosen lamps, and the air smells faintly of lavender cleaner, a scent Andrew insists on. The house is a reflection of his need for order, a cage made of straight lines and right angles. I've paced these rooms so many times I could map them with my eyes closed, yet I still feel like a guest sometimes, like I'm tiptoeing through someone else's life. Over the years, a restlessness has crept into my bones, a quiet ache for something to shatter this perfect, predictable rhythm. I've never said it out loud, though. How could I? Andrew's presence fills every corner of this house, just as it fills every corner of my mind. He's not a man you argue with. Andrew has a way about him, charismatic, commanding, with sharp green eyes that seem to see right through you. When he speaks, even in that soft, measured tone of his, people listen. I've seen it at gatherings, at the rare moments we step out of our bubble. He'll stand in a room, one hand in his pocket, the other gesturing lightly, and everyone leans in, hanging on his every word. It's not just charm, it's power. At home, that power turns inward, shaping every detail of our days. I remember one dinner party last fall, a memory that still sits heavy in my chest. He planned it down to the last crumb, roasted lamb with rosemary, a seating chart that paired guests like chess pieces, even the wine glasses polished until they sparkled like diamonds. He chose my dress too, a deep navy number that hugged my frame in a way that made me feel both seen and owned. "You'll wear this," he'd said. Not a question, but a decree, his fingers brushing my shoulder as he handed it to me. That moment lingered, a quiet reminder of how much control he wields, even in the smallest choices. So, when I heard the front door creak open that evening, I knew it was him before I even turned around. Andrew stepped into the house, his tie slightly loosened, a rare smirk playing on his lips as he shrugged off his coat. I watched him from the kitchen doorway, my hands still damp from rinsing dishes, as he moved with that deliberate ease of his. He didn't say a word at first, just crossed to the liquor cabinet and poured himself a glass of bourbon, the amber liquid catching the light as it swirled in the crystal. The clink of the glass against the counter was the only sound in the room, sharp and deliberate, until he finally looked at me. There was something different in his eyes tonight, a glint I couldn't quite place, and it sent a ripple of unease through me. He gestured for me to join him at the dining table, and I did, my steps hesitant, feeling the weight of his gaze as I sat across from him. The air between us felt charged, like the moment before a storm breaks. "Claire," he started, his voice low and smooth. "I need your help with something special." My brow furrowed, but before I could ask, he leaned forward, his fingers tracing the rim of his glass. "There's a party tonight, downtown at the Grand Elysium. You've heard of it, I'm sure. That old hotel with the stories clinging to its walls like dust. My friends will be there, and I want you to make an impression, play a role for the evening." I blinked, confusion knotting in my chest. "A role? What do you mean?" I asked, my voice quieter than I intended. I shifted in my seat, searching his face for clarity, but Andrew just waved a hand, dismissive, as if my question was a trivial thing. "It's just a favor, a little game," he said, his smirk widening for a fleeting second. "You'll see." Before I could press further, he stood and disappeared into the bedroom, returning moments later with a garment bag. He unzipped it to reveal a long black dress, sleek and form-fitting, with a neckline that dipped far lower than anything I'd ever worn. My breath caught as I touched the fabric, cool and smooth under my fingers, but so foreign it might as well have belonged to someone else. "Wear this," he said, echoing that same commanding tone from months ago, and I felt my stomach twist with a mix of dread and something I couldn't name. I wanted to ask more, to push back, but the weight of his expectation pressed down on me, heavy as ever. So I nodded, taking the dress with trembling hands. Later, as we drove to the hotel, silence filled the car like a thick fog. My fingers fidgeted with the hem of the gown, the fabric clinging to me in ways that made me hyper-aware of every inch. As I stepped into the ballroom of the Grand Elysium, the air seemed to shift, wrapping around me like a heavy cloak. The space was dimly lit, shadows pooling in the corners, with massive velvet drapes in deep crimson hanging like silent sentinels along the walls. Round tables dotted the room, each adorned with crystal glassware that caught the faint light from ornate chandeliers above, casting prisms of shimmer across the polished floor. A low hum of conversation buzzed beneath the soft strains of a string quartet, the notes weaving through the crowd like a secret. I felt the weight of every eye in the room. Or maybe it was just my own nerves, prickling under the surface of my skin as I smoothed the black dress Andrew had chosen. It clung to me like a second skin, daring and unfamiliar, making me feel both powerful and vulnerable all at once. Near the center of the room, 5 men stood in a loose circle, each in a sharp suit tailored to perfection, their presence commanding the space around them. They ranged in age, I'd guess from late 30s to early 50s, and there was a quiet confidence in the way they held themselves, as if they owned every inch of this gilded cage. As I approached, their gazes locked onto me, piercing and unrelenting, and I felt exposed, like a deer caught in the glare of headlights. My steps faltered for a moment, but I forced myself forward, my heart thudding against my ribcage. One by one, they introduced themselves, their voices smooth as polished stone. First was Marcus, a man with a jagged scar tracing down his left cheek, giving him a rugged edge that contrasted with his pristine attire. Then Ethan, whose piercing blue eyes seemed to see straight through me, a smirk tugging at his lips. Victor followed, his dark hair slicked back, a glint of mischief in his expression. James was next, broad-shouldered with a jawline sharp enough to cut glass, his handshake firm and lingering. Finally, Daniel, the oldest of the group, with silver streaks in his hair and a gaze that felt like it carried 1,000 unspoken stories. I stood there, caught in the orbit of their attention, feeling the air grow thick with something I couldn't name. Marcus stepped closer, his presence towering, and reached out to brush a stray strand of hair from my face. His fingers lingered near my cheek, the touch sending a jolt through me, warm and uninvited. My breath hitched, But I didn't pull away. Ethan moved in on my other side, taking my hand in his thumb tracing slow, deliberate circles on my skin. "That dress," he murmured, his voice a low rumble. "It's like it was made to steal every thought in the room." The compliment wrapped around me, intoxicating, and I felt heat creep up my neck. Victor, not to be outdone, offered me a flute of champagne, his fingers brushing mine as he handed it over. "To new beginnings," he said, his tone low and suggestive, a promise hidden in the words. I took the glass, my hand trembling slightly, and sipped, the bubbles sharp on my tongue. Inside, a storm raged. My heart was a wild thing, pounding so hard I thought it might betray me to everyone in the room. My mind screamed at me to step back, to find Andrew, to cling to the safety of the life I knew. This was wrong. Every instinct I had told me so. I should have turned on my heel, walked away from this dangerous pull, and sought out the man I'd promised my life to. But my body refused to obey. My feet stayed rooted to the spot, drawn to the heat of their nearness, to the thrill of being seen in a way I hadn't been in years. It was as if a part of me, long buried under the weight of routine and expectation, had clawed its way to the surface, hungry for something forbidden. And then, in a moment that felt like shattering glass, I realized I didn't want to run. I leaned into Marcus's touch, letting his hand linger just a second longer than it should have. I laughed at something Ethan whispered, a sound that felt foreign coming from my own lips. As that unfamiliar laugh escaped my lips, a shiver ran down my spine, not just from the charged air around Marcus, Ethan, and the others, but from a sudden, piercing awareness that cut through the haze. My eyes darted past their faces, scanning the ballroom, and that's when I saw him. Andrew. He was tucked away in a shadowed corner near the far wall, half hidden behind the sprawling leaves of a potted fern. He stood there, one hand casually holding a glass of red wine, the deep crimson liquid catching the dim light as it tilted slightly in his grip. His posture was relaxed, almost too casual for the setting, his shoulders loose, one hip leaning against a high table. But his eyes, those sharp green eyes I've known for a decade, were locked on me. Unblinking, intense, like a predator studying its prey, or maybe a director watching his scene unfold. My stomach dropped, a sickening lurch that felt like the floor had vanished beneath me. Guilt crashed over me first, a cold, heavy wave that made my breath catch in my throat. Then came the fear, sharp and jagged, slicing through every thought. I'd crossed a line tonight, let myself be drawn into something I couldn't undo, and now he was here, witnessing it all. I braced myself for the anger I was sure I'd see in his expression, the betrayal that would twist his features into something I'd never forget. But as our gazes met across the crowded room, I saw none of that. Instead, a slow, knowing smile spread across his face, deliberate and chilling. He raised his glass in a silent toast, the gesture so calm, so calculated, that it sent a fresh wave of dread spiraling through me. My fingers tightened around the champagne flute, the glass cool against my trembling hand, as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. He wasn't storming over. He wasn't filming or documenting this moment to use against me later. He was just watching, sipping his wine as if this were a performance he'd been waiting to see, as if he'd orchestrated every step of it. Confusion tangled with the dread, knotting in my chest until I could barely breathe. What was this? What did that smile mean? My mind raced back through years of our marriage, sifting through memories I'd buried under the weight of routine. I remembered the offhand comments he'd made, little remarks I'd laughed off as harmless teasing. Times when we'd been alone, late at night, and he'd mused about wanting to spice things up, his tone light, but his eyes searching mine for a reaction. I'd always dismissed it, changed the subject, assumed he was joking or testing me in some way. But now, standing here under his unwavering gaze, Those moments took on a new, unsettling shape. Had he meant it? Had he been planting seeds all along, waiting for a night like this? The thought made my skin crawl, not with disgust, but with the eerie realization that I might not know my husband as well as I thought. I knew I couldn't stay frozen in place, caught between the men who'd drawn me in and the man who'd brought me here. I had to face him. My heels clicked against the hardwood floor, each step echoing in my ears like a countdown as I moved toward Andrew. Behind me, Marcus, Ethan, and the others resumed their conversation, their voices fading into a low murmur as if nothing had happened, as if the air between us hadn't been charged with unspoken promises just moments ago. My focus narrowed to Andrew, to that corner of the room where he waited, still holding that glass, still wearing that smile. Every step felt heavier, the weight of my choices pressing down on me, the black dress suddenly feeling like a costume I'd been tricked into wearing. What would I say when I reached him? How could I explain myself when I didn't even understand what I'd done? When I finally stood before him, close enough to smell the faint oak of his cologne, he said nothing at first. He just studied me, his eyes roaming over my face, then down to the dress he'd chosen, as if appraising his own work. That smile lingered on his lips, a silent challenge that made my pulse hammer in my ears. I'm sitting in Andrew's car now, the aftermath of that night at the Grand Elysium clinging to me like a second shadow. The streets outside are quiet, rain-slicked and gleaming under the sodium glow of streetlights as we drive home through the early hours. The silence between us is a living thing, thick and heavy, pressing against my chest until it's hard to draw a full breath. The only sound is the rhythmic swipe of the windshield wipers, a steady back and forth that mirrors the chaos in my mind. I'm rigid in the passenger seat, my hands clenched in my lap, fingers digging into the fabric of this black dress that still feels like a costume I can't shed. It's as if the material has absorbed every charged moment from that ballroom, every lingering touch, every weighted glance, and now it's suffocating me with the memory of it all. My thoughts are a storm, spiraling faster than I can grasp. How long had Andrew planned this? Was tonight some kind of test? A game he'd been designing in the quiet corners of his mind while I folded laundry and set the table at 6 sharp? Did he ever love me the way I thought he did? With that quiet, steady devotion I'd clung to for years? Or was I just another piece in his carefully ordered world, moved into place for his amusement? Do I even know him at all? I've spent a decade memorizing the cadence of his voice, the way his green eyes narrow when he's thinking, the exact angle of his smirk when he's pleased. But now, after seeing that knowing smile in the shadows of the hotel, after feeling the weight of his silent approval across that crowded room, I'm questioning every memory, every assumption. My throat tightens with the urge to ask, to demand answers, but the words stick like thorns. What if the truth is worse than the uncertainty? What if I've been blind to something darker all along? Andrew's hands are steady on the wheel, his focus on the road ahead, but I can feel the tension radiating from him, a subtle undercurrent beneath his calm exterior. Then, out of the silence, his voice cuts through, soft but deliberate, each word chosen with precision. Next time, we'll do it in front of everyone. The statement lands like a physical blow, sharp and sudden, stealing the air from my lungs. My breath catches, a ragged sound I can't hide, and my head snaps toward him, searching his face for some hint of jest or mistake. But there's none. His expression is unreadable in the dim light, his jaw set, his eyes fixed on the wet asphalt stretching out before us. The words echo in my mind, each syllable a spark that ignites something I can't name. Shock courses through me first, cold and numbing, but beneath it, there's a heat, a dangerous flicker I don't want to acknowledge. I expect myself to object, to scream, to let the anger and confusion pour out in a flood of accusations. I should be demanding to know what he means, why he'd say something so brazen after everything that unfolded tonight. I should be telling him to pull over, to stop this car and face me, to explain how he could stand there in that ballroom, watching as I danced on the edge of something forbidden, and not just tolerate it, but encourage it. My voice should be shaking with betrayal, with the weight of a decade's worth of trust unraveling in a single night. But the words don't come. Instead, I feel a fire ignite in my veins, a rush that's as intoxicating as it is terrifying. It's not just shock or fear. It's something primal, something I've kept buried under layers of routine and restraint for far too long. I didn't just tolerate what happened at the hotel with Marcus, Ethan, and the others. I didn't just play along because I was caught in the moment. I craved it. The attention, the danger, the way their eyes lingered and their touches hinted at unspoken promises. It woke something in me I didn't know was there. And now, hearing Andrew speak of a next time. As Andrew pulls into our driveway, the familiar outline of our house looms ahead, but it feels like a stranger's home after everything that transpired tonight. The gravel crunches under the tires, a sound that's always grounded me, yet now it grates on my nerves, amplifying the surreal haze I'm trapped in. I step out of the car, the cool night air biting at my skin through the thin, clinging fabric of this black dress, a garment that still carries the weight of every charged moment from the Grand Elysium. It's as if the night itself has seeped into the material, chilling me deeper than the autumn breeze ever could. Andrew moves ahead, unlocking the front door with that same calm precision he always has, his movement so routine, so unaffected, that it makes my stomach twist. How can he act as if nothing has shifted, as if the ground beneath us hasn't cracked open? Stepping inside, the house is exactly as we left it. The neat furniture sits in perfect order, the beige cushions aligned just so on the couch. Framed photos of us line the hallway, smiling on vacations, arms around each other in sunnier, simpler times. But I feel like an intruder in my own life, a ghost haunting spaces I used to belong in. The lavender scent of the cleaner lingers in the air, a reminder of the meticulous world I've lived in for years. And yet it smells wrong tonight, almost suffocating. My heels click softly against the hardwood as I follow Andrew into the kitchen, my body moving on autopilot while my mind churns with echoes of the ballroom, of those lingering gazes, of his cryptic words in the car about a next time and everyone. What does it mean? What have I stumbled into? Andrew reaches for a glass from the cabinet, his movements methodical, almost mechanical, as he pours water for both of us. The faint clink of the pitcher against the rim is the only sound breaking the oppressive quiet. I stand there, rooted near the counter, my fingers gripping the edge for support, still reeling from the night's events. He slides a glass toward me, his green eyes meeting mine for a fleeting second before he looks away. There's no mention of the hotel, no reference to the way he watched me with that chilling smile, or the provocative statement that still burns in my ears. Instead, he asks in that even tone of his, "Are you tired, Claire? Or do you want to watch something before bed?" As if nothing has changed, as if we're just a normal couple winding down after a normal evening out. His casualness is a blade, slicing through the chaos in my head, making me question if I imagined the intensity of it all. I try to respond, opening my mouth to say something, anything, but my voice comes out hollow, a faint, "I'm fine," that sounds like it belongs to someone else. Inside, I'm burning, a volatile mix of guilt, excitement, and fear swirling in my chest. Guilt for how I felt under the attention of those men, for the way my pulse raced when their words and touches hinted at forbidden edges. Excitement for the raw, untamed part of me that awoke in those moments, a part I didn't know existed until tonight. And fear of what I've become, of what this means for us, of the dark, unpredictable path I've stepped onto without fully understanding the destination. I take a sip of the water, the cold liquid doing nothing to douse the heat still simmering beneath my skin. This night has shattered the predictability of our marriage. The still lake I've floated on for a decade now, roiling with undercurrents I can't ignore. What once felt like a safe, if stifling routine has been replaced by something darker, more volatile, and yet undeniably alive. I've always known Andrew's need for control, the way he shapes every detail of our world with a craftsman's precision. But tonight revealed a new facet, a hidden layer where his control extends into realms I never imagined. Did he want me to feel that rush, to dance on the edge of something dangerous while he observed from the shadows? Was this his way of breaking the monotony, of rewriting the script of don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story? This will help us create more engaging stories for you.